back, everyone. I'm Nala,
And I'm Faith.
and this is the Siren's Den breakdown, theories, and things you may have overlooked of the 5th episode of Loki.
So, as always, this is your official spoiler warning.
The episode was chock full of Easter eggs, so that's basically what we're going to be doing, just going through all the Easter eggs.
Yeah, one thing that we really loved about this show, that this episode did really well, is that they just incorporate a lot of just, again, Easter eggs that just become fundamental to the show. And this one just kind of it was the episode to show off all the Easter egg. I almost feels like they were trying to do as many Easter eggs as humanly possible. I feel the art direction team had a field day on this.
Oh yeah. When you're talking about different Loki variants, like the possibilities are endless.
And it's really fun watching this episode and like thinking about all the like little Easter eggs and because honestly, I really think back to good old film school when like everyone was like super into a project and like really determined to hide like meaningful stuff in the set. Like we've all been in like those like hokey film school meetings where we're like, yes, and we're gonna do this to represent this and this to represent this. And it feels like
Symbolism.
people got paid to do that, except on a much bigger scale, and we're going through all of it.
Even at a certain point, Sylvie lands on literal Easter eggs. So I think that was a.
I could hear the art director go, "Guys, I have an idea," and I can hear the other people in the room going, "Oh man, that's brilliant! Yeah." As I in the pure film school joy of it all.
I love it. So this episode was called Journey into Mystery, and yeah, we sure got it. We still don't know what's happening.
Mm-hmm. Journey into Mystery. The episode title is even itself a reference to the original Loki and Thor comics, where they, the comics where Loki and Thor made their debut. Journey into, oh god,
Journey into Mystery.
Yeah,
They
Journey
debuted
into
in
Mystery. Yeah, they debuted in Journey into Mystery, in the comics. So, I think that's a fun reference.
So we start off the episode right where we left off in that mid-credit scene with Loki and all the other Lokis who are like, "Come with us if you want to live." In true Loki fashion, he, has a bunch of questions that he just asks rapid fire to try to figure out what's going on.
And then he's threatened by a child. He's threatened by child Loki, who we learn his Nexus event was that he killed Thor. Which is it almost makes you wonder. Remember in Thor, I think we talked about this before too. In Thor 3, where he's talking about the time Loki turned into a snake because he knew he loved snakes and then revealed himself as Loki and stabbed him. What if he just like hit an artery and like that's how he killed him?
I could see it. For sure.
That would be
But
very Loki.
I'd like to point out though that after he said that, Loki had a look on his face of almost like, wow, even I wouldn't do that. It was kind of a fun moment just seeing Loki be like, it showed like the love that he has for his brother that he doesn't want to show, but it's so apparent every time.
Yeah. Like that's just how Loki's deserve dominance. One has to become the alpha, and in order to become the alpha Loki, you have to kill a Thor. That's and then once you do that, the other Lokis will, sensing the killing of the Thor, fall in line. This is a Loki biology lesson. Yeah, which by the way, the guy who wrote the episode, who is one of the creators of IKEA Heights, also is a writer on Rick and Morty. Remember the episode where Beth goes into the pocket dimension to save her friend who's just like, yeah, he wrote that episode. He also wrote the time episode of Rick and Morty, the one where they branch off onto different timelines, and remember that one?
Oh yes,
He wrote that one. He and he and most important, he wrote Interdimensional Cable. He wrote the first Interdimensional Cable episode.
wonderful.
That's I mean, it's okay. You can win awards with improv. Remember when two of our friends in film school won Best Writer for the script the film that was entirely improvised? It
So, I just want to also say that I love how these Marvel shows have been obviously expanding on these secondary characters a lot more, but they have also been leaving the groundwork for what's most likely going to be Young Avengers in the future. I was wondering how they'd do it in Loki, and here we are with Kid Loki, who has been doing an awesome job. And we're definitely going to be seeing more of him in the future of the MCU.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we've been kind of hinting at just Young Avengers for forever. I think it's something that just kind of, even before all the TV series started we've just kind of had an inkling that that's the direction they're going to go in, because it just they wrapped up one of the biggest Avenger storylines, and they're going to be needing to look for new people. That's an obvious route to go. And yeah, I think they introduced Kid Loki and set him up to be a part of that really seamlessly. I'm really excited to see, and because I'm excited because this hopefully means that we'll get Tommy and Billy back, and they're not permadead.
So continuing on, Loki finds out that they are in fact at the end of time. That is, it's still being written. So everything that gets pruned just gets sent to this end of time place. So it looks a lot like the dream cityscape in Inception. And that's where everything that is, not supposed to be there, that's where it ends up. And of course, that's where all the Lokis end up. So it has other people in it as well, but it is mostly Lokis.
All right. So as they're walking, it starts in what is just going to be a theme for the rest of the episode of just random big ol' Easter eggs in the background. So one of the things that we see is the Avengers Tower, except it's not the Avengers Tower. It's actually the Kang Enterprises Tower, which is a reference to in the comics, Tony Stark sells the Avengers Tower to the King Enterprises, which it was owned by the guy who will go on to become Kang the Conqueror. So that's just kind of a big ol'. This episode has a bunch of references, and I'm hesitant to really, really, really jump on them because we've been burnt by WandaVision before. But like, this was the background. We can't take anything Marvel gives us, even in like hints in the background, especially really heavy hints like that, at face value. Although that is one thing on top of many that hints that Kang the Conqueror is going to be who we're going to see at the end of this.
I mean, there have been many hints to
Mm-hmm.
Kang being, someone we're going to see eventually. This was just like
Yeah,
a big one, like a big in your face one.
yeah, like that one. That compared to the fact that Ravonna Renslayer is one of the main characters for no reason, and now we have Eliath, the giant void smoke monster thing that guards Kang the Conqueror in the comics. Like, all roads point to Kang at this point, but it's also I feel in my heart it's gonna be Mephisto all over again. But I but the fact that I'm saying that means it's gonna be Kang, and then I'm gonna be the idiot once again. Like, whatever I think it is what it's not gonna be. So, but that's the fun of, isn't it? Thanos Thanos copter. The Thanos copter was the stupid helicopter that Thanos rode in a comic, and just it was a buy this toy thing. But
It was also his first appearance, and he's wearing his getup, and he's fighting the Avengers, and he gets arrested by normal police in the end. The fact that
so it's so stupid. It is. But that was just in the background of the show, was the Thanos copter.
do we know anything about Eliath, or can we? Eliath's pretty cool. We're cool with this
Yeah.
smoke monster.
Yeah, just that it's one of the it's heavily associated with Kang the Conqueror. In kind of the same role that a relationship with Kang as whatever is at the end of Loki has with Elias.
As we are discovering more about these other Lokis and discovering more about Elias, this giant smoke monster that's devouring everything, we get led to the Loki's hideout. That is, just the post-apocalypse fantasy of everyone's dreams.
I think it was just, again, the art direction team just having a blast and a half with it. I really like that we had one of those fun going underground, cheesy, let's see what's beneath the surface shots. I loved that Frog Thor. I forget what Frog Thor is called, but
You
Frog
just
Thor
said
in a
it.
jar.
Throg.
Frog. Throg in a jar cracked me up. That's just, I think that's my favorite Easter egg of the episode. Because I want to know the story behind that. I want to know how, because the implication is for Thor turned into a frog. That was a Nexus event. He got pruned as a frog. He survived Elias, but somehow ended up trapped in a jar
I got
in a Loki
Underground.
base.
I got a comic deep cut for you. So, Throg is actually a frog. He's a literal frog that a sliver of Mjolnir broke off, and he picked it up, and he was worthy, and he became Throg. Because now he possesses the power of Thor because he was a worthy frog, and
Yeah.
so he stops like frog things. It's pretty funny. It's not like he's not Thor. He's a frog that picked up a piece of Mjolnir. It's pretty funny.
That's amazing. Well, now I even want to know more. God, talk about winning the the frog lottery, and then just losing the frog.
Right? That's not allowed to exist. End of time.
Like
It's all the things that
imagine-
they were told in the writers' room for all the Avengers movies that they weren't allowed to use. You're not allowed to use the Thanos copter. That's stupid. You're not allowed to, have Throg. That's stupid. And so they all get banished to the end of time here.
I just imagine you're a frog living your everyday froggy existence, and for a brief, glorious moment, just the universe deems you like the most worthy frog, and you have superheroes, and you're a frog with superpowers and a purpose, and then you're arrested by the time police. I hope
No.
that frog gets to burn the system down. That frog is the biggest victim in this whole thing.
Hashtag free Throg. Now let's get us back on track. We're off on a tangent.
How this is happening, you just get a really great dynamic with a bunch of Lokis. It's like that Spider-Man meme on steroids. And they are all, they all have the distinct Loki qualities, and they all just play off of each other so well. So they basically just talk about everyone. Like, we get a little bit of classic Loki's humbling story of surviving Thanos' little neck snap by hiding away in some debris and floating off in space, landing on a planet to spend alone in solitude for many years. And when he finally decided that he was missing his brother and decided to leave the planet to find him, got captured and sent and pruned to the end of time, which sucked. Poor Loki. But he mentions that he created an illusion so real that it deceived the Mad Titan. And that's kind of his little grand Loki power. And so you can see our regular Loki really learning a lot from these other guys. So they talk about a plan to take down Elias and set off to execute that plan. But they get caught by other Lokis, led by one of my favorite costumes, honestly, of this, which is President Loki.
Yeah.
Cool.
So President Loki was in 2016 there was a little election happening, very small, not very noteworthy, but to comment on the small, not noteworthy election, Marvel did a President Loki run, which was Loki running for president with the the promise that he will consistently lie to the people. Yeah, he uh which again, small insignificant election. I couldn't even tell you the name of the person they were spoofing there.
Idea.
Yeah.
So, they are in President Loki's headquarters. This was a classic, like just a classic scene of, one for on Loki's side of seeing another Loki that looks like him, just acting like a horribly worse version of him. And of course, egos get, boasted and thrown around, and it eventually leads to another classic trope of President Loki's men turning on him, and suddenly a huge battle breaks out. And while everyone's distracted, all the Lokis are distracted fighting each other, that leaves room for classic Loki, Kid Loki, and our regular Loki to slip away. Oh, with Alligator Loki, of course. We can't forget Croc Loki. We can't forget Alligator Loki. No, that's true. That's true. They were able to escape because classic Loki conjured up mirror images of the other three Lokis and left them in the battle while the others were able to make their escape. Further showing the true power that Lokis have.
Yeah, and I will say one thing with the All Out Loki brawl, because the All Out Loki brawl was phenomenal. I do think it does kind of bring one of the weak parts of Loki. I will say I think has been the action overall. And I unfortunately I wanted, because this episode had such awesome camera work, except for when it came to that kind of fight scene right there. That was the only place that felt a little bit clunky to me. Just in kind of how the action was happening and what the action was. Like I don't think that's a bad thing. I think for the most part, show has been very character driven. It hasn't been an action show, which has been awesome. And but I think that also the strength of this particular team has been in kind of those character building, character study moments. And I think the weakness has kind of been the action. And I unfortunately think that true in that sequence. Which sucks because they nailed it in the Lamentus episode with that last oneer. But
A bit of both on me. I just like the fight scene for the fact that it was a bunch of Lokis fighting each other. And this whole journey has been it continues to humble regular Loki. And this was one of those times where he sees what fighting can do and he realizes that maybe fighting isn't the best way to handle stuff.
I love how they all turn on each other though. Like, cause boastful Loki says, I give you our shelter and some food, and you'll make me king." Like he totally fell for that. Like, why would
Mm-hmm.
that was the trade? And so they all turn on boastful Loki, and then they all turn on President Loki, and then they all turn on each other, and it's like it was like a Nexus event. Just having our Loki there caused a whole bunch of chaos.
This is happening while Loki's going on his journey. We also get Sylvie's side of the story and what's happening. She was still at the TVA and was talking to Renslayer. And Renslayer tried to convince her to maybe team up to find the timekeepers because they also lied to her. Of course, she was, playing it. Sylvie caught on to that and ended up pruning herself. Of course, Lokis don't die and they survive. So she was taken to the end of time where she was, wakes up in the egg of Easter eggs, or the nest of Easter eggs, and runs away from Eliath. As she's running, though, was able to touch Eliath and saw that she could perhaps enchant them.
So at this point, I got really suspicious of Miss Minutes because she was delaying and seemed in on the little trick of like, "Oh, I'm looking for our prototype vehicle that can go beyond time," right? And she was kind of delaying with her without ever being part of it. So I don't know. I really made me suspect Miss Minutes might be more of our big villain in the end, especially again with her being first build in the end. Like it kind of is leaning more and more that she's the start of time, and then who we're about to meet here at the end is he who remains at the end of time. I would imagine.
So she prunes herself. It was very dramatic. Ends up at the end of time. Tries to outrun Eliath. Realizes she can't. But beep beep on the horizon comes a nice little pizza car. Driven by who? None other than Mobius. We got him back.
Is that supposed to be the Pizza Planet truck?
I really wish it was
No.
the Pizza Planet truck.
Yeah, I did too, but it has a giant bouncing pizza.
I do more than the Pizza Planet truck though. I do wish it was a speedy red race car known by the name of
with
Lightning McQueen.
Yeah, with some lightning on it. Ka-chow.
Or a tow truck. Honestly, just a tow truck. I think
It'd
that
get
would have
too
gotten there.
confusing when they produce it in Germany, girls, because then they'll be like, why is Zemo here all of a sudden? Because Zemo's the voice of Lightning McQueen.
Is he really?
Yeah, I tried to make a joke out of it. It failed miserably, but yeah, he is the
You mean to tell me that Daniel Bruhl is Lightning McQueen.
in Germany.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I will meet him and I will ask him to say ka-chow in German.
I'm sure you could find it. Yeah, but you should do that. That's what he wants with his celebrity. People to come up and say hey, say ka-chow. Yeah,
I see. That makes sense.
That's a fun little thing. I keep derailing us.
Oh, we get saved by Mobius, who in fact wasn't gone forever.
Yeah, Mobius is adaptable. He has his stuff together. I had another thought. I don't remember what it was.
Nice.
It was oh, yeah. Like I like that Mobius survives here, that he's made it past that big old void and has been adaptable. But also when you think about it, Loki has a body count. There's a lot of characters that I think just up until now have been like, and they've all been like mainly like background characters of like, oh, that means they died if they were pruned. Oh no, maybe they survived in this other reality. We don't have no, they're dead. B52 that the guy, the first episode in the suit who's complaining about the deli line, the people who found Loki when he crash landed after finding the Tesseract, they're all dead.
So they weren't taken to the end of time, they were just dead.
Because if it's all this stuff that's pruned when they set off those bombs and like that's appeared, and because we see the ship later on, which is another Easter egg. It was the USS Eldridge, which because this episode also threw a bunch of conspiracy theater stuff in the background, or conspiracy theory stuff in the background. Yeah, the USS Eldridge, Polybius being another one. We already covered DB Cooper earlier in the, and especially because this episode has been like this whole series is who's behind everything. Like it's kind of just been one giant conspiracy of who's behind time. So I think adding all those kind of conspiracy theory details has been fun.
So while this is happening, Loki talks about finding Sylvie, and they're going to do it by, once they figure out Eliath. But Sylvie has the same and different plans and ends up meeting them at Eliath as well. So they get to reunite, which was adorable. And Sylvie talks about perhaps enchanting Eliath because they are not the monster at the end of time. They are in fact guarding who is in fact at the end of time. And she was able to see something when she tried enchanting it earlier on. So that is her plan. But it's a dangerous one. It does involve them all going to face Eliath head on. And after talking it over with everyone, Sylvie and Loki decide to go. And classic Loki and Kid Loki with Alligator Loki all decide to return home because they've survived it already. They can keep surviving it. But classic Loki has a change of heart, which leads us into our final battle of the episode. So this part, we got a little more of Sylvie and Loki. They sit, and Loki conjures himself a blanket that he also conjures around her as well, which is funny because he is a frost giant and shouldn't get cold. So the fact that he was cold maybe has me thinking that it was something else. In this, Sylvie also said that Loki can also probably enchant Eliath, even though he doesn't think he can. So I have I'm not going to say love-hate relationship with this ship because I do love it. I just am hoping that they do go the Enchantress route with Sylvie instead of the Loki route, because I do want Loki to have someone, but I don't want that someone to also be him. Like I feel like he deserves the affections of someone who doesn't already know all the things about him. So I think her Nexus event, we still haven't found out what it was. And we've speculated on it, but maybe the Nexus event is that she was the wrong person who was adopted by Odin and Frigga. So perhaps she is, in fact, the Enchantress and not, in fact, a Loki. And that's probably why she was taken. Because we still don't know what her Nexus event was, and she has talked about it being an important one, like a big one. If they made such a big deal about taking her, it must have been something big. And while Ravonna didn't tell her what it was, she clearly knew and just wanted to, twist that knife a little deeper in her. But Ravonna knew.
She had that evil grin on her face the whole time, like, ooh, like, I got you good, burn.
Yeah.
How they go with it.
Yeah, I could see that. The one thing I don't know is because the reason I still think it was something pretty insignificant and small. Just because I think Sylvie's kind of the character to just kind of showcase just how cruel this system is, that just a random kid can be taken for doing whatever the heck. Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be really interesting to see if I hope that's one of the answers that we do get, is what was Sylvie's Nexus event, and just kind of to see which route that they go with it. Because I could see, because the cool thing about where Loki is right now, because the show went off the rails somewhere around episode 1, and has just kept us. So I'm really not expecting anything in the next episode, not out of I have no expectations, just more out of like it could go anywhere, because it already has, like, just each episode just gone in extremely different ways than anyone ever could have predicted. So I think one of the things with this episode too, is that they showcase that Marvel can keep their secrets, like the giant, oh god, I'm spacing on the name of it, hold on. Eliath. I keep yeah, Eliath is a big deal. Like, that's it's a big Marvel monster that and not an insignificant one. So the fact that they were able to hide that's a thing. And also the I believe I could be wrong about this, but we finally got the trailer footage of Mobius driving in the car, but if I remember correctly, in the trailer he had no one in that car with him, and now Sylvie's in there with him. They're great at their CGI. So yeah, I think that whatever I have trust in the writers that whatever's going to happen in the next episode is going to be really cool, and it's going to be a cool reveal. And I have that trust just because it's been such a ride until then. But I honestly have no idea I have theories on what are going to happen, but.
So this takes us into the final battle of the episode, where they're facing off against Eliath. And they get some help. They try enchanting it at first. Loki causes a distraction. Sylvie tries to enchant it, but she doesn't have that much power to handle the giant fog monster. So Loki decides to come and step in. And I thought this part was really telling of like who Loki wants to be, because he starts off, he isn't really fond of being the distraction. You've seen it in Ragnarok when he's like, no, we're not doing get help, but does it anyway. But he runs fully on with the flaming sword, getting Eliath's attention. It almost works. And when he notices Eliath going back to Sylvie, he runs for her, because he's not just going to let her get destroyed like that. It's about to eat the both of them, we get rescued by classic Loki, who makes an entire illusion of Asgard, down to the giant palace that they have. And it successfully distracts Eliath. But in that, as Eliath is eating what he thinks is Asgard, he takes classic Loki with him in the process. And all we get after the fog disperses is his horned helmet. Now, I don't know. I think you put an actor like Richard E. Grant in a character like Loki, I don't think you're gonna kill him off like that. If he's already survived Thanos by creating a super powerful illusion, I have no doubt that he did it again.
Yeah, so kind of going back into theories on who's going to be the end of this. There's some strong evidence to suggest Kang is. There's a lot of also some theories on a character called He Who Remains, who is the time TVA agent at the end of time who created the TVA to guide the next times, blah blah blah, time stuff. And now, because one of the theories that we've been going on this is like it's gonna be a Loki in the end. It's gonna be the Loki that won. And after this episode, at first I was like, I'm gonna be kind of bummed if that's the case, but I won't be bummed if it is Richard E. Grant as classic Loki, as He Who Remains. That this was just another instance of him faking his death. Maybe not necessarily he's He Who Remains and he's just derping around with the other Lokis, but maybe just in his survival he becomes that and goes on to set this path for himself. Maybe. That's also just, it'd be fun to have Richard E. Grant as the villain of this thing. I'd like to see that. And it's also it's one last fun crazy theory before the end of the show. We gotta get one in, right?
I don't think it's that crazy because he talks about how that's his illusion, right? He made it so real you think it was him, no matter. And so that was something he said. And the other thing we learned about him is that he was very good at living as a hermit, essentially, like by himself on that one planet. And here's someone who exists at the end of time by themselves, that and Loki's survive. So I think there's more weight to that.
Maybe that's why he enforces that specific timeline, is because maybe we've been saying that it's the one where he survives as the Loki, or maybe in his kind of time of ponderance and existence, he's decided that Lokis suck, so he prunes the ones that don't end in being murdered by Thanos.
Nala, what do you think? Who exists at the end of time?
Question we ask ourselves every day. I'm not sure. I could definitely see it as Loki. I could definitely see it as nothing. I could see it as Kang. I can see it as, I think it might be nothing, only because that would, give more weight to a multiverse happening. Because if in the end this whole thing was for nothing, then what's stopping Loki from unleashing the multiverse?
I don't know. See, now you got me pondering because Faith, I forgot this is the last episode. This is our last chance to get crazy with our theories. I heard a cool one where people think it's Mobius.
Yeah, that's the other one that I've been thinking of. I think I suggested that one in the last episode.
Well, and after he just left by himself to go burn down the TVA, if he's the only person that exists at the end of time because he burned down the TVA, then he has to send Miss Minutes back, I assume, to set up the TVA in the past, therefore to get all the way around. This is timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly stuff, right?
Yeah, that's the fun thing about it, is I have no clue. I think it's Mobius, I think it's classic Loki, I think it's Kang, and I think it's none of them.
I don't think it's Kang. I think we have the hints of Kang. It's like how we hinted Thanos at first, because this is phase 1, right? So if this is phase 1 of the new thing, I think we just get the glimpses. Oh, Kang Enterprise, right? We see little hints here and there. We saw in this episode too, we saw the Wasp giant head, so that means he got giant at one point and then got pruned. So that kind of leads into Ant-Man and the Wasp with Quantumania, which King is showing up in. So I think they're just doing their Marvel thing here. Any final theories, Nala? What do you got? You have anything crazy? You have something crazy you can hit us with? A crazy theory. Just so crazy it might be true.
I think we're gonna get a costume change in this last episode. Because Sylvie and variant Loki's costumes are pretty tattered up. But I think this might be her reveal. I think we might get a Scarlet Witch type of reveal with her as Enchantress. And whether or not she turns on Loki might happen, might not. I just think that she is also going to play a role in the future of the universe. Like, this is not the last time we're going to be seeing Sylvie. And as far as, I think the TV is obviously going to get taken down. I think Ravonna is probably going to get what's coming to her. Hunter B-15 is probably going to find a way to go back to her life. And I think Mobius will get a jet ski. Is that too much to ask for? I really don't know. Like, I don't know what to even fathom as a crazy theory, because this whole show has been crazy. Like, I don't even have a starting point on. I feel like what I'm saying, is the craziest thing that could happen, because it's not going to happen. They're going to find a way to make us miserable all over again.
I love it. I hope so. I think Mobius comes saving the day on a jet ski at the end of time, right? This is a whole scenario that plays out.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess we have one more episode to find out. So tune in next time as we go over the final episode of Loki.
Tell us what you thought of episode 5 in the comments, or send us an email at sirensdenpodcast@gmail.com, or message us on Twitter at sirensdenpodcast.
Thank you to Ty, our producer, and to Sean Thomas at Fuzz Studio for our theme song.
Catch you next time. Bye.
Bye.